All right, now that you understand a little bit about what debugging is, what the term actually means, what a syntax error is, and what a logical error is, based upon our discussion in the previous video, let's go in and actually play around with the program a little bit so I can show you, number one, what a syntax error is, what you should do when you actually get a syntax error, and then how we're going to go ahead and debug for logical errors in our program using what I introduced in the previous video, the breakpoint. Again, it's relatively easy. And again, I implore you, beg you, to try this now. And when the programs are simple, don't wait till they get more complicated in a few weeks. Do them now while the programs are simple. I also beg you to use this tool that if you're having trouble with your logic and you're not quite sure you understand how the logic flows, use this tool to watch how the program actually works. It'll actually make you a better programmer in that way too. Anyway, let's get into this a little bit. So I'm back to my validation that we did on VB Auto Center, okay? And let's get into the program a little bit and play around with it. Now, when we talk about syntax errors, I know you guys have seen these before. Syntax errors are these things where maybe you came in here and you spelled this differently than what it's spelled out on, when you define that radio button, okay? Now, the thing is, what do you do when you get those little red lines? Do you, scream, change your major, become a cook? I don't know. What do you do? Well, you don't panic is number one. That's the first thing you don't do. And you got to remember this is part of programming, getting errors. And all you need to do for Visual Studio is hover over it. Okay, and it will tell you what the problem is. RAD customs is not declared. It may be inaccessible due to its protection level. I would have to say that particular error message is rather vague. I'm not sure what it even means. It may be inaccessible due to its protection level. I kind of know what it means, but you don't. But, it's not declared. What does that mean? Well, it's not defined. So obviously we declare our variables, but even more so, when we actually put our controls on a form, we're declaring those also. So there's no such thing as RAD customs is what that's saying, okay? So basically in this case, and again, this comes with experience, I need to fix that. Now, once again, it's pretty hard to even do that because if I start typing, if you name your stuff well, IntelliSense gives you the list of radio buttons that you actually defined on your form. So once again, making things a little bit easy for us in regards to eliminating the possibility of syntax. If for some reason you start playing around and you did something like this, and all of a sudden that becomes a syntax error. Maybe you forget, to put the space in there, you delete a space. End-if statements are no longer supported. Use end-if instead. It doesn't necessarily fix it for you, but at least tells you that you have a syntax error. You will not be able to compile this. Let's talk about compiling for 1 second. Every programming language, the computer only understands one programming language, okay? And that's called machine language. Every programming language that you learn must go through what's called a compiler, aka an interpreter, okay? What this means is it's going to take the language that you write, more English-like this, and compile it, interpret this language to machine language. Does that make sense? So every language you learn from Visual Basic, C, C++, PHP, C Sharp, Java, obviously, and so on, Python, all go through this. The languages were developed to make it a little bit easier for programmers to write, to make it more English-like. But the computer itself does not understand those languages. It only understands one language, machine language. So every language must get compiled down to what is called machine language, okay? To do that, you must write this programming language perfectly, in this case, Visual Basic, or it can't interpret it correctly. It can't convert it to machine language. So if you have syntax errors, it will not build. You may have seen that before, where all of a sudden you try to execute it like this right here, and it says you get this error message. There were build errors. What would you like to continue? Would you like to continue and run the last successful build? The answer to that question is always no. You don't want to do that. It's just going to confuse you. Okay? You want to fix the problem. A build error is basically saying, I cannot interpret this language, compile this language down to machine language. Build is a Microsoft term for compile. Okay? So I can't do this. So there's build errors. You would say no in this case right here. And usually the errors pop up on the bottom that's preventing it from compiling, or in Microsoft's terms, build. All you really need to do is double click on the error and it'll take you right to it. And 9 times out of 10, you'll look at it and go, oh, I forgot to put endif like that. Somehow I deleted that space, did something stupid. Okay? So if you have red lines in your code, it will not build / compile. You must do that. And then once all the syntax errors are out of it, you can now compile it and run your program. Now our problem is logical errors. Does that make sense? So when you see those red lines, read them. Now, in some cases, you might sit back and start doing this. If, let's see, DBL price, base price, okay, and you see the red lines actually already, it's just following you, right? What's wrong? What am I doing wrong? Well, in this case, you got to be careful, and this comes with experience. You haven't finished it yet, right? You haven't finished what you're trying to do. And if you allow the whole thing to finish, in this case, the program actually helps you by putting the endif there, those red lines go away. So once again, something you got to get used to as you, continue to continue to program. So if you're writing something and you're confident and you're getting red lines or green lines, finish what you're doing and see if those red lines go away. If they don't go away, hover over the red line to see what the error actually is, okay? And that will fix your syntax error. If you get something, if you ever try to start it and you get this right here, you have a syntax error in your program. That's what it's telling you. You must fix it before it can actually handle it. You never want to say yes to this. You always want to say no and go find the problem and fix it. Okay? It could be as simple as this, or it could be something else. Who knows? There could be a million things you did wrong, but just click on the problems and go figure it out. Make sense? Those are syntax errors. Okay? Cool. Okay. The next type of error that we talked about is our situation where we sit back and we run our program and we don't get the expected results that we actually wanted. So let's go run our program real fast. Okay, here we are here. And I press calculate and finish must be selected. Okay, so I picked, well, I thought I did that. Okay, first name must exist. Cool, Bob. Let's see, last name must exist. That's all good. And I hit this right here. Base price must be numeric. Got it. This looks good here. And I press that in there. Base price must be less than 100,000. Well, it is. It's 8,000. Okay, 8,000. That's less than 100,000. Base price must be greater than. Well, what the heck's going on here? So I see I'm getting a logical error. It's not working. You see that? It's not working. How can I fix this? It's not working. Now, what most programmers will do, they'll come over here and look at it, right? And say, what the heck am I doing wrong? What in the world? A base price must be greater than 0. Well, let's see. If it's greater than 9, and I can sit here and look at this. Looks like it's good for me. I don't understand what's going on. Maybe you see the error right now. If you do, that's fine. But sometimes, like I said, this stuff can get kind of involved and you don't see the error. How can I fix this? Why? I know this is working. I just kind of tested that. And I know this is working. And I know that's working. And it seemed like base price was doing pretty well when I put something in, but I'm getting an error when I put $9,000 in. So why? I anticipate it to say it's good and go beyond it. This is where this thing called a breakpoint can come into play. All right? Up here, you'll see right here this word debug. Okay? There's a lot of things we can do to actually debug our programs. We're going to keep it pretty simple right now. We're not going through all these. Only thing we're going to talk about is adding a new breakpoint and stepping into F11, which basically goes to the next step. All right? I'm not going to use that menu. I'm just going to show you how to do it. What we're trying to say here is that what I can do is I can sit here and run my code and look at it and say, this thing should work. Dang it, it should work. I don't know. I'm going to try it again. Obviously, maybe the last time I ran it, there was something wrong with my computer, and I think it should work, okay? And so I go in here and I put $8,000 in here for my car, and it still doesn't work. Number one, I promise you, if it didn't work before, it's not going to work the next time you do it. It doesn't work that way. There is a bug in my program. Once again, I'm going to go back to what I had told you before. Accept the fact there's something wrong with your program, accept the fact that it was your fault, and and then embrace it and learn how to go fix it. Okay? And so I go, all right, that's not working. All right, you can kind of get a little frustrated. I don't know why. What I would do in this case is I want to know what's going on with my code. Why isn't it doing what I thought it should be doing? Well, in doing that, what I can possibly do is I can come up to uh, any line of programming code, okay, and I can tell it to stop the execution of that code right there. Meaning when I press submit, instead of it running all the way through from top down, right, that's how programs work, I can tell it to stop right there so I can see exactly what it's doing and why. So let's look at this real fast. I'm going to go ahead and stop it on my base. I think it's doing all right with numeric, but let's just see how this whole thing works. Okay, so I'm sorry, I kind of got one faster. I'm going to stop this for a second. How did I do that? I went over to this little grayish column right there, if you would, right? It's on the left-hand side of all the numbers. And I did a left click on it, and that basically put what we called a breakpoint, okay? That actually is going to say, stop running the code. As soon as you press submit, after you validate all of this, stop right here, and stop the execution, and then we're going to go in and take it one line at a time and watch it execute. Now watch how this works. So once again, go over this little line, do a left click that either turns it on or turns it off, okay? When you hand this in, okay, make sure there's no breakpoints in there. Very frustrating for me if I have to remove them. So, but this is for your debugging only. So to remove it, obviously put your little arrow over it and do a left click again. See how I'm toggling back and forth? I know you don't see me doing it on my mouse, but I promise you, I'm doing a left click and another left click. If I do a left click here and I'm down here, I'm going to add another one, okay? So to get rid of them, put the arrow right over it again, and it'll actually remove it. Do you notice? See that? Okay. So in this case here, what we're going to do is I did a left click, and let's watch how this actually works. So we know I got to put Bob. See, I need to pick a finish. I need to put Bob Niels, and I did that, and I'm going to put $8,000. We feel that should work, and for some reason it's not. So what's actually happened is the program has run all the way through these, and it has gotten through that code. We feel pretty good about that. Now what I can do is I can come in here. This program has stopped. Look what I can do here. I can hover over the controls, in this case the actual properties of each control, and it will show me what the contents is. There's the 8,000. Well, that looks pretty good. Okay? My anticipation then is, it is numeric, it should come right here and move that to my base price. Okay? To make it move, go to the next line, you're going to do F11, function F11. So in some cases, it's all based upon your computer, how you do the function keys. Some require you to press the function key first and then the F keys, okay, your function keys. Some don't. It's really up to how yours works, okay? In this case here, see, if I just press my function key, by F11, it's actually the sound. And so in this case here, I'm going to do function F11, okay? And if you notice what it did, it went right to this end if. I think I did that a little bit fast, but it actually did the base price first, and then it went to here. And that's what we wanted to do. Now I look at my base price, I have $8,000 in it, meaning I can hover over and see what's actually in there. The goal of doing this is not trying to do it as fast as you can, okay? I almost cussed there. I was going to. As fast as you freaking can. That's not the goal here. The goal is to analyze what's going on to make sure it's doing exactly what you think it should be doing. Does that make sense? So in doing so, do F11 each time and make sure it's going where you think it should be going, okay? And then hover over and see if it's actually doing what it's supposed to do. In this case, it did put $8,000 into my variable, and I can hover over that. Learn to hover over the variables. Now I'm sitting here and I'm going, okay, I'm down to this part here where I'm actually testing range. And I'm saying it needs to be between $1 and $100,000, right? That was the goal here. If it's over those or below that, it's not a good base price. So I look at base price here, 8,000, look at base price here, 8,000. I still feel like it should be good and it should bypass it. However, if I do function F11, as soon as I find it, there it is, you see that it actually goes right into the true statement. I'm like, why is it doing that? Well, once again, okay, 8,000. And so I can sit back and I know now my problem is in here somewhere. There's something wrong here. It has 8,000 in it. That all looks good. I will contend that if I don't do it this way, you don't even know what's in there. Is it looking at this correctly? Well, in this case here, obviously, you guys probably already seen this. You might be screaming at me right now saying, Bob, it's your greater than sign. So this is saying if the base price is greater than 1 or if it's greater than 99,000. Well, it is greater than 1. I actually wrote this wrong, something that anybody in the world can do. And I could sit there and stare at this and stare at this and stare at this and not know what's going on. And all this is that I flipped this around incorrectly. And now when I rerun this program, that part will now work. Does that make sense at all, what I just did there? So I actually use my debugging techniques to help me find that, okay? Knowing that my variable was good, we see that the finish must be selected. So we go ahead and do that, and then we hit calculate again, okay? All right, let's go back to this. Let's see, I'm gonna get all of my little points off of there, and then we'll go back and we'll look at this a little bit more. Okay, so my base test, see, I'm gonna end this right here, and I'm gonna take that off. Again, once you get it working, get rid of it, okay? So once again, what did I do? I stopped the program and let it go through as it needs to. All right, let's play with this a little bit more. Let's go ahead and start this up. And in this case here, I got Bob yields, and I have $1,000. This thing should tell me that finishes should be selected. Okay, there you go, right there. And ooh, I got this right here. If you guys gotten these before, this is called an abnormal ending. This is when somebody says your program has crashed, it crashed. This case, it's crashed because of an exception. It's saying conversion from string, okay, null values, nothing in that string, to type double is not valid. Well, based upon what we know about data types, you can't put a null value or a space or whatever into a double variable. That is a problem. And so why? How did that get there? I should have stopped it based upon is numeric, correct? So once again, I can sit there and stare at my code and figure out, well, wait a minute, I shouldn't have even gotten to that part. I stopped it. I was supposed to check it with numeric first, and then if it wasn't, I go by it. But this thing got in there somehow. So once again, I do a left click on that code, and let's see what it actually does. And so I could come in here and Bob Niels, let's pick my finish here. And I put $8,000 in here, and I'm going to click this. I want to get that error message. Now I stopped right here. Something to note, when the line is yellow, it has not run yet. It only runs after you hit F11. So in this case, I anticipate it should be going down to the else statement and saying trade in must exist and must be numeric. In this case, I hit F11. You see it's actually going into it. Once again, I'm sitting back going, why? Why is it going in there? It shouldn't be going in there. Maybe I come up here and hover over it. And I go, $8,000? Well, it shouldn't have. Oh, God, I forgot to change TXT base to TXT trade. I'm sure you saw that. But you get the idea? This is helping me see these errors very, very quickly. I promise you, I've had students sit there and stare at this for hours, not seeing that obvious error. Okay? Maybe you didn't see it, but by me hovering over and seeing 8,000 in there, all of a sudden I kind of looked at it differently and went, "Oh God, I'm not." I checked to see if numeric was the base. The base was numeric versus if the trade was numeric. So in this case here, I stop this whole thing. I go back and I fix this, and everything is good. Make sense? Oh, this helps quite a bit. You can find things so fast, even the obvious things. And again, if some of these errors are obvious right now, I don't care. Learn how to use this tool. Learn how to use this tool. Let's see. We'll finish this up real fast to see if we can figure out anything else. And so we sit back, and now I'm going to put in Bob Niels. I want a stereo, and I want leather, and I want a standard finish, and I'm going to have a base price of $10,000. And of course, I'd be putting in my test case, right? And I hit calculate, and I would hope I would know, is that test case correct? Is my accessories and finish correct? No, I wanted a stereo, leather, and navigation. Nav was $1,500 by itself. Stereo was another cost, so that should be a lot higher. Why isn't that higher? Huh, let me go look at that. Let me go look at that. Well, I can sit back and stare at it and stare at it and stare at it and stare at it. Why is this not higher? Why is it not adding these things up? Let's see, I got my finish. I don't know what's going on. Once again, let's go back and we put a left click here. Okay, and we left click it. We put the breakpoint right where I think the error could be at. I could do it a little bit earlier if I like. Okay, press start. And I can sit back and say, okay, I want a stereo, leather, and navigation, standard. Bob Niels, $8,000. Okay, and trade in 1,000, and I hit calculate, and I come in here. See, it stopped it right there. So now look what I can do. Okay, this is doing this right. I should be adding these things up. So I can hover over the actual checked here. See how I'm hovering that property? And it's telling me that it's true. So if I hit F11, function F11, it's going in here. It is going to set the A up price. Right now it's 0, okay? But my stereo price is 500. Once I execute this, again, if it's yellow, it hasn't executed yet. I hit F11 again. Okay, yep, I put $500 in there. Cool, that's what I wanted. And then I hit F11 again. Whoops, sorry. I hit F11. I did something wrong there. I got to start this all over again. I apologize. Let's do this real fast. I gotta find I think I may hit F12 by accident. I'm in a poorly lit place right now doing this video. And so let's see. So we'll sit back and we'll put $10,000 here again. Boom, boom, boom. Standard and $1,000 trade. I hit calculate. Once again, let's did that. Okay. Let me make sure there it is. So function F11, it did that. Okay. I put AF price 500. Okay. So I hit, now I'm going to be checking to see if it's leather. And that's true also. Okay. So it should accumulate. So I go here and now my AF price is 1,000 and my leather price was that should be 1,500. What am I doing wrong? I'm doing something wrong. Can you guys tell me what I'm doing wrong? Are you screaming at me or you're saying, Bob, this video is getting long? So in this case here, it's very obvious what I'm doing wrong. I'm not accumulating, correct? But, once again, by me going through it and seeing that it's going through the thing, I can very easily see that I replaced it versus accumulating it. And how would I fix that? I would go here and put plus equals and plus equals, correct? And there you go. And I accumulate and everything's going to work now. I contend, and I've watched students with that type of error stare at their program for 2 to 3 hours and get all frustrated and start telling me they hate programming and everything else. Don't hate programming. Realize there's a problem and utilize these tools to help you find it. It's not that big a deal. The more you learn how to use it, the faster you're going to get at it, and you're also going to be, again, a much better programmer. Okay? I think I got all the other things out of here. I think the whole thing should work now, and I hope you kind of get an idea of this. I want you to play with this. Play and play and play. Even if you don't have any errors, learn how to put that thing in there and walk through. Hover over the controls, the properties of the controls, and see what the values are. Hover over your variables and see what the values are, okay? Do that kind of stuff. Get used to this. I promise you in a few weeks, you will thank me, all right? So one more time, Niels, whoop, put my name in backwards, all right? I don't know, I'm losing my mind. This might be getting a little long. $10,000, let's put that in there. I just want to make sure, I want you all feeling good that this program will work. And now look at that, my accessories and finishes is $3,000. Everything looks good all the way through, and we have now debugged our program. All right, you